Modesty. There are many ways to be modest. It's not just the clothes that we wear, it's the heart that we have also. But what appears out should appear in, and what appears in should appear out. And that's basically what our model is. If we find a person not wearing a scarf, like what we read by the social media, or we see a man not wearing a galabiya, what's called a jubba, or it's also called a kurta, we won't think any less of them. We won't think any less of them. Now, just bear with me. Many a times, you must understand, there are many reasons why people have migrated to Australia. Some because of poverty in their countries, some because of wars, some because of finance, many different reasons, but everyone came for a better life. When they came to Australia, they did not come with a bag full of knowledge of what is Islam. Growing up in our country, in our Muslim countries, the adhan, the call for prayer, called. And we saw our parents praying the daily prayers 5 times a day. And there was a certain way in how they lived their life. So many of them have come to Australia, and we define Islam, the actions of our parents. I'll give you an example. In the Saudi community in the early 2000s, Saudi government in Australia gave visa for PhD students to come and study here in Australia, Canada and the UK. And we found that our mosque was full of Saudi citizens. So a group of family invited me to their house, and they for a cup of coffee and tea. The coffee was so strong it was high already. And one cup was enough, it was a tiny cup, and I drank the coffee, and it was enough for me. And he kept on pouring more coffee. So I said, that's enough. He said, no, it's not enough. More coffee. I said, oh my God. So I drank that coffee up, and he put some more. I said, oh my God, it's going to drown me. So he said to me, Sheikh, that's what they call Imam, the priest of the Muslim community, Sheikh, I'll let you go this time, but part of our Islamic belief, our Islamic practice, when you are finished drinking, take the cup and turn it upside down. I said, my dear brother, I love you very much, but that's not Islam. That is an Arab culture. That is an Arab culture. In my house, we believed that English music was impermissible. That was in my house. You could not listen. More music in rock, heavy metal, R&B, Tupac, Big Daddy, what's it called? No? Crack Davids, John Rule, you name it. We weren't allowed. But when it came to Indian music, no, that's permissible. That's permissible. We're all allowed to listen to Indian music. So it wasn't based upon Islam. And nobody came prepared with the knowledge of Islam from different countries and backgrounds. They came with a mere mind frame and an idea. And they came to Australia. And many a times when people see the actions of Muslims, they define that to be solid Islam. So with the hijab, it is something that is complemented in Islam. It is something that shows modesty in a woman. And it is something that the Muslims are proud of. With the men, some of us, we wear what we call a hat, or we call it a kufiya, or a qalansuwa. There are many different names for it. It's something that our Prophet wore, so we want to resemble those who we love. I remember in the 90s, you found guys like to look like Tupac. They've never been to America, but the accent was, yo man, how's it going? Yeah. And it's okay, because his hero was Tupac. And you found that the guy, he was inspired by Malcolm X, so when he spoke, you felt that Malcolm X was present. That's okay, it's his role model. So us as Muslims, not frowning upon anyone, not pushing anyone to do what we are doing, but that's someone that we love dearly, and that's the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It's not something that is compulsory, it's something by choice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Terry, did Do you have a question?
Yeah, just listening to your fine speech there, I say it's fine. I too can walk in your footsteps and say, today what I got out of here today is something wonderful for myself to understand that if I walk through that door today in my national dress, covered in yoga, with a lap and a boomerang spear and a boomerang stuck in my side, and walked in this place, I'd be welcome. So I thank you for that feeling.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. Another question over here? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. My name is Bhupendra, and my question is to Imam. So, which one you prefer as an Imam? Religion-full, peaceless society, or a less religion, peaceful society?
I want the society that is peaceful because we respect our different choices that we make. That's what I choose.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Locke. How are you going?
Thank you. Given the difficulties that Islam has suffered in Australia in the last 20 years, has that led to a movement of reaching out to across the Muslim divides in Australia in terms of the Sunni, the Shia, the Hazara? Are there movements towards peaceful coexistence or even closeness with the different traditions?
Yes and no. It's a very good question. There's one factor that, what's his name, it's not coming to my mind now, he's a reporter. He mentioned very beautifully when he came to Australia a couple of months ago, Mehdi Hassan. Mehdi Hassan, who's a Shia, and he's a spokesman on Al Jazeera. And he mentioned something very beautiful. He said that the more we try to highlight in red Islam, it gives more ammunition to those who try to resemble Islam in a very negative way. And the media, just like, again, I'm sorry, I'm referring back to Tupac a lot, but in the early 90s, when there was this movement, the media had good fun in making wars between two individuals where there was no war. And something which was very minute and small that can be solved became so difficult and uncontrollable. And it's all around the fact that we need to educate ourselves about this problem, therefore coming up with a positive solution. We cannot come up with solutions. Get rid of Islam. Have you studied Islam first? Have you got to know what is Islam? What are the problems I have with Islam? Look at facts. In Australia, Muslims have been here for 150 years, even longer. There is documentation of Aboriginal elders having what we call an Arab tijara, trade with the Indonesian Muslims. We see some of the trends, some of the ways in the culture of the Aboriginal within Islam. Because Islam has always been here. So these are the facts that we need to first make ourselves aware of, so that we can look for a brighter future. We are fueling these extreme groups in spreading not only in the Arab world, but it has opened up doors to the Western worlds. It has opened worlds to the non-Muslim worlds, where we find youngsters radicalized. We find, and it's something that we're not going to hide away. It's like Brother Benio mentioned. We're not here today to tell you that we are not a problem. We are going to tell you that there are Muslims in the world. We have to acknowledge there are Muslims in the world with this wrong ideology, something that has grown through anger, hatred and pain. But if you look at what drives them, which is what? 5%, 2% of the Muslim community within the vast world? What brings them to that point? And it's a study that I've been doing for the last 10 years. And this is what we have come up with. In Australia, when we are at home, us that have migrated, my parents that have migrated, there was a certain way that we lived at home. There was a certain expectation from my parents. And I could never expectations because I never grew up in the environment that they grew up back home in their countries. But when I came to school, I became even more alienated because I could not lingo and speak the way that my fellow pupil in class spoke. So I never felt fit at home. When I went to the Indian community, when I went to the Arab community, when I went to the Bosnian community, I didn't fit in. And then when I went to school, they also did not include me. I was exclusive. I was taken out. I was a person without an identity. Give a man a fast car. Give him a wonderful house. Give him a lot of money, which us Australians, we do have. We are better off than many countries. But what gives a person a sound heart and happiness is having a sense of belonging. Having a sense of belonging. When you feel that you don't have an identity, that's all you crave, is identity. And speaking out of experience, dealing with my Muslim community, I run an afternoon school in Brisbane for the last 15 years. And I've seen children in the Somali community, Sudanese community, the Rohingya community, the Pakistani community, they become so abrupt. And the more we study the children, the more we realize they've been bullied at school. They've been outcasted in school. They've been called really, really bad names at school. What do we expect to happen to them when they grow up? Have they really got a bright rainbow past to talk about and to say, I remember when me and Peter and Bob were together. They don't have that. So it's up to us as parents to educate ourselves to come to the point of understanding, therefore tolerance becoming something that is a mutual understanding in our community, so that we can pass that on to our children. That 7 years old that is calling another child Blackie doesn't know any better except what the parents do, they do. They follow by. We are their principle. We are their structure. We are their motivators. We are the ones that create the next generation. So what's happening in the Middle East world, the more we preach hate, the more we don't educate ourselves, the more we don't ask questions, the more we have this red tape around Islam, it's going to be a darker future for our children. And the more these children become radicalized, know what happens? They get an email from someone amongst the, disliked representation of Islam, or from ISIS saying, we're your brother. You're part of us. We accept you. Can you imagine a youngster, which is happening, leaving this beautiful country, freedom of speech, money, beauty, going to a war zone? Who does that? Who does that? Think about it for one moment. Who does that? It's got to be a person that is desperately looking for something that he doesn't have as an individual. And that is a sense of belonging. And the more and more that we create this friction, hitting two fences of Islamophobia and extremism on the other side, the more we're going to lose peace, not only internationally, but more importantly, our backyard nationally. So that is why we're here today, to ask this question and to go back to the question that has been asked, that in the Muslim community, yes, it has now brought us closer together to leave our differences aside based upon our past experience and try and work on solutions. It's going to take years, but because remember, we are the most complex society. We are Indonesians, we are Malaysians, we are Chinese, we are Russian, we are German, we are Pakistani, we are Indian. We are so many different cultures coming together that just speaking about Islam is secondary. There are still so many barriers that we need to break in order to come together. But that's the plan. Thank you very much.
We have another question over there that I saw. Yeah, back. Thank you, sir.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. My name is Abdullah. On behalf of you can see a lot of non-Muslim friends and brothers has gathered all the way. They came, spending their time to listen. What is the message as a leader of Islam you want to give to them? Why we do need a religion like Islam? If I am an Australian, I am living a healthy, honest, sincere, truthful life, helping my fellow human being, doing charity. Why do I need a brand like a Muslim? Why you want a religion? Can I have a honest man living truthful life? Why you do need a brand as a Muslim? Why do you need that?
It's the choices that you make in life. Again, like I mentioned, this is a country which is based on democracy. And that's what makes us so beautiful. We make the colors of a rainbow because of the different ideas, the different beliefs that we have, the different experiences that we have. It's what makes the human nation. That not like the animal kingdom where you have one way, one criteria, one aim in life. And without human beings, we won't see that beautiful colors that we have shone throughout the globe. So as a Muslim,